It's been a while since we last talked, but it's always awesome to talk to some old homies. How's your day been?
It's good, man. It's good. Got a pretty late start today. Had a space last night, which was pretty fun. Hanging out with some of the guys from Ticket Tree and um, this Candies project, Candy, something like that. Anyway, nonetheless, yeah, just enjoying my Sunday, man. How you doing?
Dude, I'm chilling. I was just in the Utes and D Gods AMA. I asked them some questions. I got some work done. Syndicate is growing pretty quickly. We're in almost 80 servers now. It's been like a month of us onboarding, so it's been awesome. This is episode I think 29 of Making Time. So we've been doing this. Things are just popping right now. We're chilling. Things are kind of working out. It's almost suspicious. Things are working out a little too well right now. So yeah, we're just on our toes. But yeah.
Yeah, man. No, you guys are absolutely crushing it. I mean, obviously we've been using the Syndicate news bot in their server so far, and it's been great. Everybody gets a chance to kind of keep updated with what's going on. But what I'm super excited about is the ad platform. So yeah, bullish. I can't wait.
Yeah, man, we're going to be rebranding the ad platform in a little bit, so y'all have an announcement on that. But yeah, I'd love to talk more about Syndicate, but this is your show. This is Lonely Matt's show. We're making time for you. So I will open this up with my traditional introduction, and we'll head straight into my first question for you. But this is Making Time, hosted by me, HV Socrates, on the Syndicate Network. This is a show for creators by creators, where we look to highlight creators in Web3 and Solana in particular, and ask them a little bit more about their story and how they got here. I have gone ahead and pinned this space to the top, but you can also press the little chat box in the bottom right hand corner. And if you could go ahead and drop a quick comment, like, and a retweet, that would be absolutely fantastic. So we can get some more friends in here to learn more about Matt of Lonely Listeners Club. But without further ado, my first question for you, Matt, would be, what got you into Web3?
Definitely, definitely. The music industry kind of led me here. I feel like it's kind of a natural transition for a lot of people that work in creative fields. But yeah, I think just like the consistent game we see play within the music business, and seeing Web3 have the capacity to be able to build something better, build something that can not only benefit artists significantly more, but also benefit the fans and supporters of those artists as well.
Yeah, and I remember one way I had Drizzle actually explain Lonely Listeners to me was like betting on an artist and seeing the returns from something like that. So it's interesting that you mentioned, right? Like you think Web3 technology has the potential to kind of change the game when it comes to traditional music. So I'm curious to learn, what does your music background look like professionally?
Yeah, so I've spent the last 6 years of my career working in the music business. Initially started off running an independent label up in my hometown. It's mainly studio recording sessions, working develop independent artists. Went to school for marketing and advertising. During that time, I had a music marketing agency which I ran for a few years. Worked with a bunch of different clients, both major and small. A lot of clients from major labels, but the whole primary premise of what I was doing with Cube was essentially trying to help incubate independent artists and provide them resources to be able to kind of survive in the music business, which ultimately led to the creation of the Lone Listeners Club. Kind of still fighting the same mission and the same goal, and just doing it in a way that utilizes, a deep community and a business model that's scalable enough to help artists succeed. So that's kind of what we're doing with the Volume platform, is building this artist accelerator. But yeah, I've worn a lot of hats in the music industry, man. I've done anything from marketing, A&R, to licensing. It's when you work in the music business, man, it's kind of like difficult because you can't categorize yourself in one specific area. You kind of have to understand every element of the business.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I think part of that, what's interesting about your story is you kind of took a more guerrilla route, right? Like you worked for an independent label, then you worked for independent artists, and then you had your own kind of consulting marketing firm and kind of were your own boss for a long time, almost 6 years, it seems. So, what's interesting is you've worn all these different hats and you've seen different perspectives of this space. So, I'm curious to know who's the most interesting person you've met on your journey and what did you learn from them?
It's a really good question. Um, I would probably have to say in the very early days of entering the ecosystem, um, and I think a lot, like probably a cliche answer. A lot of founders probably see the same thing, but Soul Big Brain was like a huge help for us when we entered this ecosystem. He was, obviously the biggest influencer in this entire space. He's been involved in crypto for many, many years. Um, so when I had the chance to kind of connect with him very early when we entered the ecosystem, it was really helpful to us to be able to kind of navigate a little bit. Obviously, coming from a music background rather than a technical or Web3 background or crypto background by any means. Fortunately, we've expanded our team and we got some people that specialize in things that aren't necessarily my wheelhouse. But yeah, Big Brain has been a huge inspiration and a huge source of support for us throughout this journey.
Yeah, I never got to interact with Big Brain himself through my Web3 journey, but I have interacted with some other kind of high level influencers, and they can definitely open up your eyes, right? Like, not only do they have more experience in this space, they just see things differently. Their perspective is a lot more mature. They can maybe make you feel a little bit more grounded and kind of keep you down to earth when in this space where you feel like everything should work, or maybe you're a little bit naive coming into it. So as you've kind of been taking on this journey, and you said you've had some help from Big Brain and so on and so forth with navigating Web3, how did your life look different 3 years ago?
um, to keep it a buck, um, quite different, man. Web three is can definitely take a toll on a founder. Uh, so if I look back 3 years ago, I was running my marketing agency as kind of at the peak of my career working in the music business, and I kind of decided to take the bet on going into Web3, and it's changed a lot. I've had to sacrifice a lot. I think the conviction and kind of what we're doing here is strong enough that I know that the payoff is beyond worthwhile. So I mean, I definitely didn't expect to see myself where I am right now 3 years ago, but I'm happy to be where I am, and I'm really eager with kind of what we have coming this quarter, and how that's going to shift things for not only the lives of our team members, but also the lives of our whole community. We hope we want to give everybody that generational wealth, baby.
Yeah, I feel that. And you said you never would have expected this, right? Like you kind of just pulled up and took a bet, and then now here you are. You live Web3 full time, and you're pulling all nighters, kind of pleasing people on the internet. But what's interesting is I have a very similar story. For me, I went to school for engineering. I was this kind of nerdy kid. I took math classes, whatever. I went to school for engineering, and then all of a sudden, I decided to kind of drop out and pursue this opportunity in Web3 and pursue this greater vision or this greater dream of connecting people, and building a cool brand on the brink of technology. So it's super interesting. So I'm curious. You mentioned you took this bet on Web3, right? And you kind of dropped everything you were doing and tried to see the success of Lonely Listeners realized. So I'm curious, where else along the journey have you had to give up any dreams, if there were any?
I think like when I start working in music, my kind of main goal from the get go was to be able to help as many artists succeed as possible. I think naturally, like anybody who works as an A&R at any capacity, it's like it's a big part of your job is ensuring that they find success. And I don't think I don't think the journey's necessarily changed. I think it's just um, been reevaluated. It's been looked at through a different perspective, a different lens. Um, that traditionally I wouldn't have been able to pull off in Web 2. So I'm happy with where I'm at. I If I were to look at things differently, if I were to see if I never would have ventured into Web 3, I'd probably be still running my marketing agency and just continuing to work with independent artists. So I feel excited about this because I'm able to do the same thing, but at such a wider scale, that I believe that there's like real impact that can be left because of it.
Yeah, right. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize as they come into the space or kind of develop as project owners is this is definitely a platform where you have way more reach in achieving your vision, right? You say your thing is, and maybe it is intuitive, so maybe I'm kind of not giving some people enough credit, but you come in here, you have way more reach, and you can help other people achieve their dreams in ways you never thought possible, right? Like when it comes to leveraging Twitter or leveraging the power of blockchain and tokenized NFTs or whatever, that's so many people you can impact with simple words or simple resources you build or a product or a platform you put together. And as in your sense, it's you want to empower these artists to pursue their dreams, and you can do that in a better, more effective way through something like Lonely Listeners. So, as you've been building your platform, I'm curious to know when was the last time you felt alive as Matt?
I mean, every day, baby. Like I wake up and I get excited to work on the LLC and to work on this platform and to work on essentially everything we're trying to build here. I feel like I'm in my skin every day, baby. And you know, gonna continue with that same mentality and that same excitement every day when I get up. And yeah, man. Um, I feel like Matt right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, for sure, right? And for some people, like you say you just wake up and you feel it, but for some people it takes walks, or it takes I had a speaker yesterday who said he climbed a mountain and it took the 360-degree view of the environment around him to really feel alive, and really embrace that and be able to channel that for a greater purpose or building his brand or building his project or so on and so forth. So I love what you're saying. You wake up, and I feel very similar. I wake up every day and I feel like, damn, I get to do what I love. I understand that that's not something to take for granted. This is an opportunity that a lot of people don't have, which is pursuing their passion and being able to help people and so on and so forth. So, so as you've been doing this, right? You've been working on Lonely Listeners for a long time, and you had your mint and so on and so forth. I'm curious to know along the way, what was the worst piece of feedback you've ever gotten from somebody?
Um, I would say uh, certainly the idea that we're commoditizing artists at a way that is comparable to traditional record labels. And this is kind of a topic that a lot of people in the music NFT ecosystem kind of debate about behind closed doors. And is it right to be continuing to focus on the existing music business model, or should we be creating something that tries to eliminate the music business from existing at all? And I've gotten that feedback, and I can understand the narrative, and I understand where people come from when that's kind of their mentality around how we can create a solution for artists. But the way I see it is, and someone who's worked in the business, and record labels have been through cycles of understanding when something's coming that's going to interfere with their business, and they quickly pick up on that and they're able to get ahead of it, and typically end up utilizing it for themselves. You've seen it happen with LimeWire's music NFT marketplace. Universal Music Group was one of the very first investors. They raised over $10 million, and now they're down bad because they just try to capitalize off it. You know, I see these other projects, not to name any specifically, that are fighting a really really good fight. I really appreciate and love their mission, um, and they're putting music on chain and allowing any artist to go and upload. But the reality is it's just not going to make any difference or impact at scale, and it's going to make it very difficult for the music industry to take Web3 seriously. because at that point you're kind of just selling, an MP3 file on chain, and I don't think that gets anybody anywhere. It's a cool way for somebody to financially support an artist, which is great. I just think there's better ways and there's more strategic ways that can incorporate the music industry to actually make an impact on the industry itself, an impact that's sustainable. So that's the biggest feedback I've got. People have questioned kind of whether this is the right way to go about it. However, we believe very, very firmly that this is the only way to go about it and it be successful.
Yeah, and I can't say I know too much about kind of what goes behind those closed doors, what goes on behind those, or too much about the music industry in particular. But it's interesting to kind of see you offer this perspective, right? How some people think what you should be doing is kind of obliterating the establishment, and creating a whole new paradigm or a way of viewing music as a label and as a publisher and so on and so forth. So it's interesting that sure you might be taking that feedback, do you think it's the most applicable, or maybe the way you're going to go about doing it? Maybe not. It's just a perspective and another way at looking at what you're doing, and maybe you can take that bits and pieces of that and incorporate that into Lonely Listeners, or what your kind of larger picture looks like. So as long as whenever we have feedback like that, and especially if it's like not great feedback, or it's something that maybe rubs you the wrong way, it tends to be a little bit memorable, right? You remember that, it kind of sticks out in your brain. So I'm curious, what is another one, or what is the most vivid memory you have when it comes to making Lonely Listeners?
Definitely, like the entire lead up to the mint. It became such kind of a lifestyle to wake up every day and hyper focus on one thing, and that one thing being, uh, marketing the hell out of a project on Twitter. It was probably the most stressful kind of 2 month stretch that I've had to endure. We're talking about Twitter Spaces every day for hours and hours on end, and 24-hour long Twitter Spaces to close out our mint, and it was memorable. But like throughout that process, there was like a lot of really really great memories. Um, I think when you put yourself through challenging situations, you tend to find like some of the brightest memories coming from them. So that period of time was, but at least very memorable for me.
Yeah, and mints are always incredibly challenging. I think from a non-project owner perspective, it's a little bit easy to. I mean, you acknowledge a lot of the work that goes into it, but I don't think you quite see the intensity and the planning and the late nights and the conversations and the consulting and all of the stuff that goes on in pre-mint projects, especially during the bull market, right? Like I think you guys minted in like what was it, May or April? Was it
Uh,
around that?
we minted in August actually. And we minted on like the lowest like historically, the lowest trading volume day in Magic Eden history. We like our timing just kind of didn't align properly, like the way we would intended it to. And I mean, it didn't really slow us down. We stretched out our mints for a few days and closed it out. But yeah, it was a challenging time, man. Like the stress that kind of happened on that mint day, like the expectation, like having I think over 8,000 pre-sale wallets, and seeing like that mint counter move. I think like 500 or 600 within the first hour of mint. I was like, damn, okay, now what? You know what I mean? Vested a lot of time and energy into behind this. Like, how do we navigate from here? It was definitely like the biggest pivot I think I've ever had to make in a situation. Um, to be able to try to come out of it on top and not take a major loss on it.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned the ability to pivot, right? High voltage. When we minted back in I think March, and we had the same situation. We were gonna mint 2K. We minted like 500 the first day, and we were like, oh wow, that's not at all what we were expecting. So we had to pivot. We had to learn from our mistakes. Okay, how can we keep this alive? How can we still pursue our vision? How can we help our holders and so on and so forth? And what's interesting about these situations is when you have your back against the wall, you see a side of yourself you never, ever, ever would have anticipated. You know, you have these new skills, or you have this new sense of courage or bravery that never would have been solicited otherwise. You know, you never would have mentioned it, or things along those lines. So I love your story when it comes to your mint, because that's something that I feel like a lot of project owners, or it's just a story that isn't embraced enough. You know, because there's a lot to learn from situations like those. So I love what you're mentioning. So this will segue into my next question, which is, as you've been going through your journey, right, and as you've pursued Web3 and taking these bets on yourself, is there anything that you thought you would have grown out of but haven't yet?
Yo, sorry, I missed just the tail of what you were saying. I just got a phone call here. My bad.
No, no, no worries. Is there anything you thought you would have grown out of but just haven't?
I would say I mean, doing Twitter Spaces, man. Like, I actually love doing Twitter Spaces. It was something I didn't think that I would enjoy doing, and I find myself having a blast whenever I do these. I mean, it's unfortunate I don't quite have as much time as I used to, kind of around the time of our mint, but um, I have some plans to change that in February. We're building out this. Um, I don't want to spoil too much, but we're building out kind of this character driven Twitter Space series that we're going to be running here soon, starting in February. So, but yeah, Twitter Spaces are something I just haven't gotten sick of, man. I could like I if my job could simply be to like wake up every day and talk about something that I fucking love, I would do it. At like out of 23 hours out of a 24-hour day every time.
Yeah, I also have a immense love for Twitter Spaces and talking to people. You know, I mean that's why I have volunteered to subject myself to daily spaces. You know, I love making time. I always come out of these energized and excited for tomorrow. Right? I've had a bunch of people on my show, and after every single one of them, I'm like, damn, that was inspiring. You know, it's always interesting to hear people talk. You know, say their perspective, learn their story, and you can always take these things and channel them, you know, and use them to your own good. And okay, how can I improve, or what can I learn from that situation? And I love it, man. I totally resonate with what you're saying. So you said you have some stuff coming up for lonely listeners, but I'm interested in you as Matt. Where do you see yourself in 6 months from now?
I definitely see myself kind of cementing myself a lot deeper into the Lonely Listeners Club brand. Um, and it's going to kind of come hand in hand with kind of what we have happening with the LLC. But we're in the process of closing up a seed round for funding right now. And for anybody that doesn't know, um, about 4 months ago, bootstrapping the project and the company for the last year, I've never paid myself a salary, never been able to pay myself a salary. And because of that, 4 months ago, I had to make the move up to Northern Ontario, my hometown, where the cost of living is significantly cheaper. I was living in Toronto. Naturally, working in the music business, I was living in Toronto. But I ended up moving 8 hours north to cut down living costs, be able to maintain expenses with the project, being able to maintain keeping staff on payroll. And I see 6 months from now having to, finally raise this seed round is being able to, expand a stronger team that I get to work with every day. It's really difficult, kind of having all that weight on one person's set of shoulders, to be able to manage everything from logistics to community to marketing to and we're fortunate to have community members that kind of help out on the kind of the side of maintaining presence on socials and helping out even just with little things within our Discord. But yeah, I'm eager to have a team of people around me that can kind of fight with me for the same vision and goal, and that's what I see happening in 6 months. I see myself a lot less stressed, and a lot more successful. That's the goal, baby.
Yeah, and having a team member and being able to, or not just a team member, but a team of people is something you kind of maybe take for granted until you have to work for yourself. As you mentioned, doing the marketing and managing the community and building at the same time and maybe raising a seed for, like, dude, I can't even imagine. Like, that's a lot of different multifaceted work to have to handle on your own. And I mean, I'm looking forward for you that easing up for you, right? I hope that kind of eases up quickly for you. So I'm curious, what barriers do you see between now and where you envision yourself in that 6 months?
I would say the biggest barrier is just the shift to the scalability of like what we're essentially launching. It's gonna basically go from heavily focused on the LLC community to heavily focused on pumping out not only new users into our platform, but pumping out a high volume of artists. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to it's going to be a lot of time management, to say the least, to be able to ensure that everything gets taken care of on both sides of that business.
Yeah, and right, like you mentioned, time management and being able to be efficient and operate effectively and be able to get it all done is always a big issue. It always comes down to, what do I have time for, and prioritizing things and placing value on different items on your list, and so on and so forth. So, um, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And especially like from Syndicate, we have some big issues that are coming up that are super immediate, right? Like, one thing we have to do is get approved by Discord, and that's also like a question of, how can we be effective, how can we be efficient, how can we still do this while growing, and so on and so forth. And it just becomes a battle of things like that. So I'm curious, what does your support system look like, and how do you stay organized?
Definitely, my community is who I look to for support for a lot of things. We're fortunate that a lot of our team members, our mods, our social media managers, and our ambassadors, we've all been a part of this community since kind of the beginning. So it's fortunate that I'm able to kind of go to them with a lot of things, kind of receive feedback and play around with the idea. They've been in the space as long as I have, and some of them longer than I have, and it's good to have that support system. When we're looking at shipping a new strategy, a new marketing strategy, or shipping a new product to market, to be able to bring it to the community is really important, and I find that's a really solid support system for us. And you lost me. What was the second part of the question?
How do you stay organized?
How do I stay organized? I mean, I utilize project management tools. Asana is like my savior. If I didn't have Asana, I probably wouldn't be able to keep my head on straight. But yeah, I mean, just utilizing the tools that are out there, and there's a lot. There's a lot more coming to Web3 as well. There's we're currently working on, as I mentioned, we're doing the seed raise right now, and we have if you're familiar with the Graph. We're hoping to land a strategic partnership with them as well, and if so, kind of get access to a lot of the resources they have on hand. They have a few really solid products when it comes to collecting data for holders and users of our marketplace when it launches, and yeah, just a lot of good tools and kick ass devs to have on our side.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you meant, I think it's funny you mentioned you utilize project management tools like Asana. Yeah, we used Airtable was a big one for us. We used Monday. We tried that. We tried Trello. We tried what else did we try? There was just a handful of stuff. We use Notion now. Like, there's a whole bunch of different stuff you can use to kind of stay organized. Because without that kind of stuff, especially in Web3, as everything is so multifaceted and multidimensional, and you have to do kind of 20 jobs at once, you do need a system to keep you organized. And I'm also really proud, or kind of happy, that you have a community of which you can depend on and rely on their support. It's always nice to have these people who are willing to stick up for you and provide feedback and do some of the work that makes your load a little bit easier. And I think another thing that's really helpful for kind of staying in touch, or not really staying in touch, but staying productive and staying effective and so on and so forth, is having a stress-free and kind of familiar environment, or a place you feel comfortable in. So, um, did you mention that you moved? Did you move back to your hometown, or what did that look like from Toronto?
Yeah, so I moved to my hometown, which is it's a small town called Sault Ste. Marie. It is 8 hours north of Toronto. And just for comparative measure, like I rent a room here, and I pay $400 a month for a room, and that covers pretty much everything I need. $400 Canadian, mind you, so it's like what $300 US, compared to what I was paying in Toronto, which was 2,000 a month plus hydro, plus electricity. So it definitely like was a was a necessary move. Basically, at the time, we had hired a new developer, right, to start building out a product for us called Listen, and basically it was kind of like a decision of okay, like this developer is going to cost me this much to have on payroll for 3 months, and my option here is like I hire a developer, or or I have to stay or I stay here in Toronto and try to make it work. And I decided I can survive living in a bedroom for a while, to ensure that things roll successfully and smoothly as planned. Unfortunately, at the end of that 3 month contract, the developer I was working with ended up becoming very bullish on kind of what we're building and what we're doing, and it's turned into a development partnership. He has his own development firm, so he has a team of four other devs as well that he works with, both on full stack front end UI, and then he specializes in blockchain development. So fortunate, we just struck a partnership with them, and also have, like I mentioned, the guys that built the graph, currently pursuing an advisory partnership with them too on development too. So, dev teams pretty cracked. Can't lie. Like these guys are beasts. So I'm excited to get something to market and show it off a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm excited for that as well. See what's been cooking up this whole time. And I think it's awesome, right, that you're able to be a little bit resourceful. You said you're presented with this challenge of, am I going to be in Toronto and make it work, or am I going to, get this dev online? And you chose to kind of be a little bit resourceful, live in a bedroom and kind of figure it out. So I'm curious, what is special about the place where you grow up or your hometown?
Bro, nothing. I fucking hate it here, dog. No, I'm just kidding. Like, I don't know. There's the one thing I love about this city is there's like Sault Ste. Marie was a city where a lot of Italians immigrated to in Canada, many years ago. So it's a very much Italian community, and I don't care what anybody says, bro. Like I've had like Brooklyn Italian food. I've had Italian food in Toronto. Nothing competes to the Italian food in my hometown, bro. And it's so unsuspecting. Like like it's a town of seven. The population's like 70,000 people. It's on the border of Michigan. Like you know what I mean? It's like the most unsuspecting Italian little like gem you'll ever find. So I mean, if you're ever passing through Sault Ste. Marie, go find you an Italian restaurant, and they'll treat you like you're their son. For one, like you walk in there, like Nono and Nona are there, like giving you a good meal. And the food's cheap too. There's just so many Italian restaurants around here. I'm sure you guys know. You go for an Italian dinner, like you're dropping a little bit of a bag. The Italian restaurants around here, you hop in and $10, you got yourself like a 5-star dining experience. So that's the one thing I love about being back here. I get hella good Italian food.
Yeah, and I love that about kind of hearing about people's hometowns is there's a lot of magic in these small communities. Some people are from the big city, and they can talk about kind of some of the intricacies there, but it's always interesting to hear about what value comes out of like these smaller communities, and these more comfy kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess just comfortable little communities that exist, because they were our home. We lived there, we grew up there, and there's stories there to be told, and it's always interesting and it's always awesome. So this has been an awesome conversation. We are coming pretty close to time. So I'll ask you probably two more questions and we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But I will say that this is a daily show hosted by me, HV Socrates, on the Syndicate Network. If you're enjoying the show in today's interview with Lonely Matt, you will also enjoy tomorrow's show. We are interviewing another project founder named Thoth NFT. He is building a project called the Overseers Labs. It's kind of like a consulting kind of agency. So if you're interested in learning more about his story, we'll have another show at the same time tomorrow, and I would love to have you guys there. But today's show is about Lonely Mats, and I do have a couple more questions to ask you. So, um, I'm curious to know. So you have this vision. You know, you see yourself rolling out these new products in the next couple of months. You're raising a ton of money. Where do you think the space is going, like long term? Where do you see like Solana blockchain in 2 years from now?
Brother, Solana is going to be the number one layer one 2 years from now. That is. I'm bullish as hell. Obviously a Solana maxi, as everybody knows. So, yeah, man, I'm bullish on the future of Sol, and that's why we're building here. It's been a conflict for us for throughout time, and kind of with the community and ecosystem of Solana users. Sometimes it makes you kind of wonder, like, shit, like, is this where I want to be? Like, is it, you know what I mean? Like, we see so much shit, and especially like when you're on Twitter all day and kind of like in these Solana NFT echo chambers where you kind of just see a lot of the same stuff all the time. But undeniably, the technology is completely unmatched. The team at Solana Labs are untouchable. So super bullish on Sol, and hopefully Daddy Solana pumps up our bags, and we all we all have a little nest egg here in a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially, I mean, it's ironic that I'm rocking a Ute PFP and going to be talking about Solana, but I love Solana. You know, I love the culture here. I have my Ute for networking purposes exclusively. But I love what's going on here, you know, and I'll always call Solana my home. I love the people, I love the community, and I love what all that happens, you know. So hopefully, as you mentioned, the Solana Foundation pumps our bags. I would really greatly appreciate that. I hope to retire in 2 years.
Well,
But
let's just do something already, bro. Come on.
dude, that's what I'm saying, bro. I'm saying that, dog. I'm with you. Yeah, but Matt, this has been an awesome discussion. I really appreciated learning more about your journey through Web3 and kind of some of the emotions you felt along creating Lonely Listeners and some of the experiences you had and learning even a little bit more about your hometown and what you got going on there. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up with my last question for you, which is if you had to start over in Web3, would you do anything differently?
It's a good question. Um, no, no, I wouldn't do anything differently. No, I think every little experience I've had, um, in the Web3 ecosystem is what has made the kind of approach possible for what's coming for the LLC and our company over the next year here. So no, wouldn't change a thing.
Absolutely right, and that's kind of the conclusion a lot of my speakers have had. You know, it's you are the culmination of your mistakes and your experiences and your successes and so on and so forth. And had you changed something, maybe things would look different. You know, and we're grateful. Or I mean, more often than not, we're grateful we're where we are and enjoy it. You know, you say you wake up every day feeling like Matt. You feel like you're yourself, and you get to pursue a passion that some don't have the privilege to, you know. So it's always an awesome experience, and I love to kind of hear that response. But once again, Matt, it has been an awesome discussion. I loved learning more about you. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts before I go ahead and rug the space?
Yeah, I just want to say, Loyal Listeners Club. Probably, like, if you haven't looked into it yet, it's definitely a good time to dig through on the website. Check us out. Hop in the Discord. Ask some questions, and there's always somebody there that's willing to kind of explain the depths of the project to you. But if there's a time to get in, I would say now. We have our platform launching at the end of this quarter. We have some pretty exciting stuff coming next month as well with a pretty big rapper from Toronto. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, definitely this is the time to be accumulating. So I'm excited to start rolling these things out and hopefully see some new faces in our community. But yeah, Socrates, thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, my brother, and I'm looking forward to the future of Lonely Listeners. I've got a fair few myself, and I'm excited for it, man. I'm looking forward to what you guys are able to put together, and I've been day one support. Well, I guess not, maybe not. Well, we had High Voltage actually had Soul Music, some of those OG Soul Music NFTs. So I
Yes,
could
sir. Yes,
maybe,
sir. Shout out Drizzle, because Drizzle's I think who put us on to high voltage, like like once that first even came into the ecosystem.
yeah, Drizzle's the homie, bro. Yeah, he been around for a while. There's a couple Lonely Listeners dudes that are super awesome. Girk, also another one of them. Awesome guy. Miguel's awesome guy. Like, there's a whole bunch of y'all. Al, I see some of you guys in the audience. You guys are awesome. But once again, I love to give you guys flowers. I appreciate what Lonely Listeners is doing. But this has been an awesome conversation, and I'm looking forward to future shows. If you loved making time and you enjoy kind of what we're talking about here, I will be hosting another show tomorrow with Thoth NFT. If you're interested in that, go ahead and go up top on the Jumbotron, drop a quick comment, like, and retweet, and set a reminder, and we'll have another show at the same time tomorrow. But today's show was about Matt and the Lonely Listeners and his journey through the Solana blockchain and what he's learned. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to, I'm tripping over my own words, but to support the creators of the Solana ecosystem, because without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So once again, thank you guys for coming on, making time, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye bye.